A very good evening to you. You're watching Newsfirst in Focus. On many of our programs, we've highlighted the importance of research and development. Today, we are going to talk to you in that sector, and we are going to talk to two doctors from the University of Moratuwa attached to SEBI, as they call it, the Center for Biomedical Innovation. We have with us in the studio Dr. Pooja Silva, not a stranger on our shows. He has been here before on one of our shows as well, and Dr. Nuwan Dayananda, both representing the University of Moratuwa and SEBI, the Center for Biomedical Innovation. So I'll start off with you, Dr. Silva. Initially, I want to get an understanding of what SEBI stands for, Center for Biomedical Innovation. What do you all hope to do, and what do you all do at the moment?
Okay, so SEBI, the Center for Biomedical Innovation, was started as a need, for example, as a need to commercialize biomedical devices here in Sri Lanka. So the University of Moratuwa, as you know, is a technical university, and for many years we have been having unofficial collaborations with medical faculties and developing prototypes of devices that never saw the light of day as far as commercialization was concerned. So when there was this initiative to establish a multidisciplinary research center, we felt it needed to be more than just for publication purposes. So we already had our collaborations with Colombo Medical Faculty, and then in addition we brought in PIM, Postgraduate Institute of Management, to help us on the business side, and we put this center together with the idea of commercializing these prototypes.
Dr. Silva, now research and development seems to be an area where the country as a whole seems to be lacking attention towards. You, as the University of Moratuwa, along with your team, has come forward and identified this biomedical innovation field and the importance of it. I want to ask you at the outset, I'm sure it wasn't an easy task setting up these things, and I'm sure before you all there was planning and things happening as well. I want to ask you the idea behind this whole SEBI, the Center for Biomedical Innovation. Why now, and what is the way forward?
Okay, why now? I think if you look at health as a sector, I think health is a growing sector, and the needs for health will continue to grow. So currently, when you look at the Sri Lankan context, we pretty much bring down everything, we import everything, and there is no real development that is taking place. So there are a number of reasons for that. So what we felt was, at the same time, we also have a good technical sort of knowledge that brings out these prototypes, and we wanted to find a way to kind of allow these prototypes to be commercialized. So that is when we are going to really find the resistance and find the challenges, but we were willing to take that, and we, as I said, we for a number of years have been doing this sort of commercial, this sort of prototype development, and also in the university itself there is a project that is taking place. Dr. Dayananda might be able to shed some light on that.
Yeah.
So we were kind of emboldened by what was already set up, and we felt like we could take the next step forward to establish a center for this purpose.
Dr. Dayananda, there I'll draw my attention to you as well. As Dr. Silva mentioned, the University of Moratuwa also has been from time to time trying out new things that are important to our nation as well. But now this is a new field altogether. How do you see the importance of it coming into play in a country like Sri Lanka? Because the countries in the region, Dr. Silva, you might agree with me that they have already moved into this area, but we have a lot of talent in our country. In the local aspect, how do you think we'll be able to move forward with now a biomedical innovation center in our country?
We were looking at this situation for a long time. What we see is we have a lot of innovations coming in, but none of these innovation has gone out of university. So as a university, we are kind of restricted. We have the knowledge, we can give that technology, but we can't do the commercialization. So therefore, what we thought is that we need industry partner. When it's come to biomedical engineering, we need the medical partners as well. Medical partners are and us are working for a long time now, starting back in 2006, I think. So it is quite established. But the problem is the industry partners. And the industry also very comfortable with the current business model. So they can import things, and with by keeping a commission, they can give it to the hospitals or whatever the areas. And other side of it, that Sri Lanka, even though we have a good potential, we don't have any high-tech industry. Now, if you go for commercial high-tech products, we don't have that capacity to fight with the global market. So we thought biomedical devices are professional devices which has a larger margin we can play with. So we identified that as one area that we want to focus on. But before we go for innovation, we should give the industry to the base to play with. So therefore we thought, okay, start with existing product as import replacement and maybe limited exports. So we wanted to find a partner. Finally, fortunately, we found a partner, a commercial partner. So now we have established a lab in 2012 to focusing on commercialization product. So we are focusing on the existing product in that particular lab, and we have come up with the product which is would be our first product, completely developed with a professional medical device, and it will most probably come out before the end of this year. It is a product that can meet all high-end international standards and will be commercially available for clinical use by the end of this year.
Is this the first time something like this happening in our country?
This is the first time which has been formally developed and will be formally commercialized in this particular area, professional medical devices category.
Dr. Silva, I want to again come back to you now. Obviously, when you say innovation taking place or when you say R&D, the first thing that comes to your mind is the cost component. High cost, as you mentioned, laboratories have been set up, so on and so forth. So where do you find the money?
So I think that has always been the issue. So we can develop something to a prototype stage, and then in the commercial world they call it the technology readiness levels. So we can develop it to a certain point, but then beyond that, so by the time when a university finally a project finishes, there is a certain level of proof of concept, but it actually takes about another 2 years of full-time time and monetary investment to bring it to a level where it's technologically ready, what we call it the minimal viable product. So it's that gap that we are trying to meet. And then so what the center does is we don't start with fundamental research, we start with existing prototypes and with the help of an industry partner. So that partner might have the distribution or the manufacturing capabilities and the distribution channel. What we're trying to do is find that merge so that that product can actually be developed in the right manner.
What Dr. Silva and what Dr. Dayanand is saying are very interesting indeed, and we have a special message to the industry as well. But you have to stay tuned. We'll be right back. You're watching BizFirst in Focus. Welcome back. You're watching BizFirst in Focus. We were in discussion regarding the Center for Biomedical Innovation at the University of Moratuwa. We were talking to Dr. Pooj Silva and Dr. Nuwan Dayananda, both from the University of Moratuwa and SEBI. Before we went into the break, we spoke about your institution and the work you do, and we also want to highlight on the partnerships that you all have to build in the future for the success of the Biomedical Innovation Center. So Dr. Dayananda, I'll draw this question to you. There are already to a certain degree industries that are looking at research and development in our country who are funding those types of innovations. So what is your message overall to the people who are willing to maybe reach out to you and help you also in this process?
Yeah, as a university, technological university that is leading in Sri Lanka, we always want to help the industry. We want to help establish this particular niche industry in Sri Lanka. So we are open to, through the SEBI now, we are open to give our advisors, our expertise to any industry person who in need of this particular thing, provided that they don't conflict with already existing agreements. Then we can we are open to support anyone. We want to support anyone. We want them to come and help us to bring the country's industry forward. And the major problem we face is the human resource issue. It's true that we are producing the world leading graduates. They find jobs in any of these leading companies as R&D or any other research or academia, many places. But we can't retain them within the university due to the structures there. So definitely the private industry has to help us. So they can retain them, and they can make sure that we use their knowledge and ability to promote industry in Sri Lanka. So we will help to give them the guidance to do that.
Dr. Silva, I want to draw the same question to you as well now. Again, when you take a look at private companies, a lot of private companies come forward for matters like this. They like research and development happening, and as you said, you all produce some world-class individuals in our country, and if they are getting together for an initiative like yours, I'm sure there will be private entities who are willing to support, don't you think?
I would think so, and I think there are already incubation sort of centers and then innovation centers that are attached to certain companies. So and they do have the same needs that we have. So this is one way I think we can partner, whereby we can actually offer the technical sort of the development component of it, while they can actually do the marketing, and we can partner with them so that it could be an idea that they bring in that we could help incubate and help develop. So that is another way in which we are willing to work. Now I also want to say, now when we start to work, I think one of the I guess the issues that constantly come up is this issue with IP. So as Dr. Dayananda mentioned here, I think we want to be very flexible.
Intellectual property.
Yeah, we want to be flexible because the spirit with which we are kind of approaching this is that we want innovation to take place, and we want there to be success stories. So we don't want to put in roadblocks earlier on in the equation, and so that's something that SEBI is committed to doing.
When you speak about success stories, I'm told you have a few as well. Can you explain to us about the activities that you do and how successful you have been in terms of what you're doing at the moment?
Okay, so we've been, our center has been in operation for about 18 months. So during this time we have identified certain projects. So one thing that is currently taking place is we are developing this gel that we can develop into insoles that can be useful in sort of relieving diabetic foot ulcers. So that is one project that's sort of taking place. There are other areas of robotics and other different areas that are where there are viable projects, but the issue has been identifying a right partner. So the hydrogel project took off because we managed to get a World Bank grant, but then there are other projects that are still there that are sort of that need to be further developed to a level, but we are waiting for the right investment and the right partner for that.
Dr. Dayananda, there you raised this point earlier as well. Now when you speak about matters like this, were highly complex matters, and not everybody, I don't think everybody really understands it to the extent that we would like to understand it, but they are solely placing their confidence and the trust in SEBI and the University of Monitor. I'm talking about a person who comes and invests with you all, if at all. So Dr. Dayananda, now you have to have the right people with you to carry out a project like this, because otherwise the people who are investing with you will be at loss. So how do you attract the right type of people?
We, as a university, I would say we don't have that much power to attract the people. But when we combine with the industry has the power to attract those graduates as their employees and put them in these particular projects under the supervision of the university. Then we can attract anyone who is graduating from here, or maybe even from outside who has postgraduate studies qualifications. We may be able to we are able to attract them. We have that kind of a experience in that the lab I said.
Yeah.
So we were able to get a person who is very capable, I would say most qualified person to do that particular job from a well established company. He left that job and joined this innovation, because people, the graduates, normally like this idea. They don't want to do the regular routine things which will be boring a bit, because we are trained them to be design engineers. not just practicing engineers. So they would like to do innovation. So therefore we would be able to retain, but we need that backup of getting them the industry. Like they should be employed in the industry, not the university. They don't like to be be considered as a university employee.
Yes, I understand.
So that
I'll answer that from another angle. I think in terms of attracting people,
yeah.
now there are certain areas. For example, if you take the area of sports, now biomedical engineering covers the area of wellness and sports as well.
Yes.
And if you know that we have a huge following in cricket, so even if you want to actually improve the game of cricket or swimming or for that matter any sport, there are certain I guess the use of wearable technologies and certain things where we can bring in technology to improve the game. Now if there is some funding, from sporting bodies or even from the Ministry of Sports, there will be lots of graduates who will be willingly able to offer their services. So what we are lacking at many levels is actually the initial investment to kind of develop these things. So even if you take cricket for example, there are so many things that we can do to improve the game. So that would be one way that investment would actually attract the right people.
Dr. Silva, now when you talk about the University of Moratuwa and SEBI as our example for today, we can't leave aside the government component of it as well. Obviously you all have that connection to the government, and therefore the government will also have a connection with you all. So how does that work out? Do you all find it easy to work hand in hand with the government? How does it work?
I think when I actually speak to other directors of other centers, similar centers around the world, for example in the UK and in New Zealand, what has actually worked more than the industry partnering has been an initial government investment. So the government has actually allocated a certain amount of their budget towards development, and they have over a period of time, let's say 5 years, 10 years, they have actually maintained that investment for capital infrastructure as well as project development. So that has developed confidence even in industry for them to come and invest. So currently in our setting we are primarily looking at private investment, but if the government can come and be a stakeholder, I think that would be a sure way to kind of develop this initiative.
Dr. Anand, yes, of course.
Government has helped in the past and they are continuing to provide funding, but with this regulation sometimes it may not be suitable for a research and development project. So you need a component probably next year to meet your deadlines. But if you go for the procedures, it will take about
Longer
6
time.
months to come. So these things would not work in that way. So therefore not only funding, making the procedures relaxed for R&D is very important.
And also the government can also offer incentives, tax credits, that sort of thing, to enable and to encourage industry to come. So that's another thing that works. For example in New Zealand, what I heard is that industry can partner in those initiatives for which they get tax credits, and that works out to be a win-win situation.
With that, gentlemen, let's wrap up our discussion, but interesting facts indeed where some light is being shed into the research and development sector of our country, especially in the biomedical sphere. Thank you very much, Dr. Silva, for being here with us this evening and talking to us, and thank you, Dr. Dayananda, both from the University of Moratuwa, from SEBI, the Center for Biomedical Innovation, coming exclusively to Newsfirst and talking to us about the work that they do, and we hope all the success for you in your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting us.
Thank you. Thank you. That's all we have from this segment of Newsfirst in Focus. We'll join you with more.
As a result of a higher export volume of 4.7 million kilograms for the year 2019, the to-date value of the tea exports have increased by 5.5 billion rupees when compared to the previous year. The total value of tea exports during the first quarter of 2019 was reported as 94.4 million kilograms, a growth of 4.7 million kilograms when compared to 89.7 million kilograms of the same period in 2018. According to the Tea Exporters Association, Iraq has emerged as the largest importer for the period January to April 2019, followed by Turkey and Russia. Iran is placed fourth, with Libya, China, UAE, Azerbaijan and Syria being the other noteworthy importers for the period under review. During the first quarter of 2019, the deficit in the trade account contracted to US dollars 1,661 million from US dollars 2,982 million recorded in the first quarter of 2018, as export earnings increased by 5.6% while import expenditure declined by 19.3%. The financial account was further strengthened in March 2019 with the proceeds of the ISBs amounting to US dollars 2.4 billion and a net inflows of foreign investments to the government securities market during the month. Foreign investments to the government securities market recorded a net inflow of US dollars 41 million in March 2019. On a cumulative basis, net inflows to the government securities market amounted to US dollars 53 million during the first quarter of the year. Foreign investments in the CSE, including primary and secondary market transactions, recorded a net outflow of US dollars 5 million during the month of March 2019. On a cumulative basis, the CSE recorded a net outflow of US dollars 34 million in the first quarter of 2019. Long-term loans to the government recorded a net outflow of US dollars 96 million during March 2019. Along with the proceeds of the ISBs as at end March 2019, gross official reserves were estimated at US dollars 7.6 billion, equivalent to 4.3 months of imports. Total foreign assets, which consist of gross official reserves and foreign assets of the banking sector, amounted to US dollars 10.5 billion as at end March 2019, equivalent to 6 months of imports.